was never taught discipline. Like many of us, I was never given any direction of what discipline was, but just that I was supposed to have it and know how to do it. As a very emotionally perceptive child, I learned a lot about modifying my behavior based off of how people responded to what I was doing. For them, the action that I was doing was acceptable. And unfortunately, that became my perception of discipline. Just doing what is expected of me so people would accept me. As a result of putting on this mask, I made an entire personality of being a people pleaser who is just socially nice and non-confrontational and wouldn't speak up their mind, and essentially had no personality at all as I was growing up. And it wasn't until I quit my job 3 years ago that I realized that I had no sense of discipline. Something about having a lot of time on your hands will teach you things about yourself, such as how undisciplined you are as a person. I realized that up to that point in my life, I had no sense of purpose. A lot of what my life had been shaped around was what people expected of me. And that was go to school, go to college, get into debt to go to college, and then work a job to get out of the debt to go to college, and then work a bullshit job that drains the life out of you for every second of the day. At that point in my life, the only thing that I was doing that had any modicum of discipline in it was my workouts. That's how this whole channel started. But I wouldn't say I was so great at it, but apparently I was confident enough to be a beginner and start a YouTube channel. It was something that I was okay enough at. And having so much time on my hands during the day and having the one thing that made me feel like I had some sort of control in my life, I decided to become more consistent and intentional with my workouts, which I was already doing. What that meant for me was, instead of doing a workout whenever I feel like, I was going to be more specific about the days I work out, the rest days, the type of workout I do. And having become more consistent and intentional with my workouts also allowed me to become more aware of my nutrition. And at the time, I had, as a result of working a corporate job, had built up this bad habit of winding down with alcohol later on in the day. And now that I didn't have a job and I was making workouts more consistent, intentional during my day, I realized what a havoc, essentially, the alcohol was doing, not only to the quality of my workouts, but also to my brain. So I looked into it and realized that to be able to make the kind of progress that I was looking to make, I would need to really cut back on alcohol. It was definitely hard for me to not have that wind down from alcohol later on in the day, but apparently I didn't really need it, so it didn't make sense that I was engaging in something that was already built as a bad habit. Just as I was beginning to see the positive effects of building this discipline around my workouts and my health by cutting out alcohol, I had to get a job. Because, well, your self-growth means jack shit unless you monetize it, apparently. So I had to make up for my dwindling savings by going out and trying to find another job, essentially. I saw going back to corporate environment almost as a threat to everything that I had built. So a part of me just came out and wanted to protect it with everything. So instead of just doing my workouts earlier on the day before noon or whatever, which I knew would be impossible to do once I had a job, because jobs take up 8 hours of your day. But eventually, as the prospect of getting a job came closer and closer, my workouts moved earlier and earlier in the day. So these are like, started at 5 and then 4. Having a why behind these early morning workouts is what helped make this habit stick, essentially, because it's me defending a good habit that I've built in the time when I didn't have a job, and then defending it against a sitting job where you just sit and stare at your screen all day. A lot of good happened from my workouts. It has helped me overcome depression, and it's not just about working out anymore. If anything, it's spilled into other areas of my life where initially there are things that I would have thought are way too hard for me to do because they're perceived as being hard things in society, like drawing at the age of when you're reaching your 30s and trying to think you can make a career out of it. But something about just dialing into this habit of working out first thing in the morning, 3 a.m., which is a hard thing to do, and I'm proud to finally admit that I do a thing that is considered hard, has helped me also train that part of my brain into doing harder things in life. Sure, I'm not so great at drawing or animation at the moment, but it gives me hope that if I'm consistent and intentional enough with it, that I will eventually get good enough with it. And honestly, that's what discipline is. I don't think others' expectations shape discipline. Yes, others' expectations give you a sense of structure, but that's not necessarily discipline. Having a job, they give you a sense of structure, but not necessarily a sense of purpose. That's where I think discipline is, the way we're taught or the way we start to perceive it is we think of what we're doing based off of what others' expectations are of us as discipline, because we're being accepted based off of what someone's cookie cutter version of discipline is. And if we do that consistently enough, there it is, that person is so disciplined with how much work they do. Now, 3 years later, I can honestly say I did not have any discipline as a 26-year-old. And if you'd asked me then, as analyst Anna, which Anna is still here, by the way, I would have said, yeah, I'm disciplined. I work all the time, and I take my lunch, and I work with my lunch, and I never move from my chair. Because that's what my brain was conditioned to think what discipline was. And if it hadn't been for me quitting my job and having had this experience of doing something that was intrinsically motivated and not done based off of expectations of others, I wouldn't have known discipline at all, and I would still feel a bit lost and purposeless. As weird as it may sound, workouts are what helped me become more disciplined. There's something about making your workouts a more consistent and intentional part of your day that you start to eventually focus more on the effort you put in as the reward and not the end result. And it is learning to put more of that reward in the effort that has allowed me to have the most growth. Not just physical, like, yes, I've got these muscles now, but also emotional and spiritual. And honestly, I don't think I would have had it if I hadn't quit my job in my late 20s. And now here I am approaching 30s with this working knowledge. So we'll see where that goes.